Back to the channel, everyone. We are going to be doing tie rods, inner and outer both, and everything you need to do this job is right. Okay, you got a couple wrenches, you need your tie rods, inner and your outer. We got a hammer, sledgehammer, an energy drink, can't forget that, a torch, you may end up needing it, and an inner tie rod toolkit. Okay, which, by the way, you can get those from AutoZone. You can rent them. I know most AutoZones do that. It's like $100, and then they'll give you the refund back when you turn back in the tool. So make sure you have all your pieces and make sure you turn it in together and you get your refund back. So it really doesn't cost you anything. So basically, here we are. You have the inner tie rod. Turn on some light. You have the inner tie rod. It's really loose. All right, and you got your boot back here. So what we've done is we have taken off this clamp right here. We use needle nose pliers. We slid it off. We've already cracked these nuts a little loose. Well, let's see here. We've cracked these nuts a little loose. So those are a little loose right there. But what we'll do, go ahead and snug these up just a little bit. There we go. What you are going to need is you are going to need a 16 millimeter deep well socket to get this nut off. And so we did that with a socket wrench. Use some crescent wrench for these. And, you know, since these were already loose enough, I just tweaked on the nut. Didn't even worry about stabilizing this side. But again, what we're going to do now that I have these off, we're going to go ahead and pop this out. That's loose, this is off, and I've sprayed some fluid in here to help slide this off. Now there is still, I'll show you easier on this side. There is a metal ring right here that you are going to have to break off, and that is why we have a flat head screwdriver. Okay, so we're gonna end up having to break that off. So let's go ahead and get started. This video, I actually have a buddy of mine with me. Say what's up, Caleb.
What's up, guys?
How many times have you changed tie rods out?
0 times.
Okay, so he's done this job 0 times, and so we've already prepped everything to kind of get the process moving quicker. But I'm gonna let him do the work today, and I'll just guide him through it. So the first step is we need to break the tie rod out. We need to get that out. And then we need to take off the tie rod end. And then we'll take off the boot. And then we'll go ahead and use the tool to take out the inner tie rod. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll crack that loose. That's good. We're going to go ahead and pop this ball joint or the tie rod out. Okay, as you see, the inner tie rod is probably not, this one's not too bad. The other one was actually like really bad, didn't even have no resistance in it at all. And then you also have this. Okay, so I already knew they were bad. And do yourself a favor, guys. When you're buying these parts, make sure you grab an inner tie rod or outer tie rod that actually has a grease screw. That way you can keep these things greased and they will last a lot longer. All right, so this tie rod right here does not want to come off. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to heat this up. Even though this bolt's a little loose, the nut's a little loose, we still need to heat this up in hopes that we can get this off of the inner tie rod. So go ahead and warm that up. It's very important that you guys have the tools necessary, because if you don't, then this job can actually take you way longer than it really needs to be. Okay, so he's warming that up right now, and we'll be right back with you. So with doing that, warming it up, you can see right here some of the rust corrosion, and that's probably why it was sticking, but the heat really helps, and now we're at it. So he's keeping track of how much he's actually taken off, how many rotations. That's going to be a big key factor to getting the lines or getting the wheels lined up as best as possible. You know, obviously I don't have an alignment rack or anything like that. I'm going to actually do the alignment and get the wheels as close as possible with toe about a 1/16 of an inch, with the steering wheel being straight. Once we actually have everything done, and he dropped the piece. So she's smoking a little bit, so be very careful. How many turns did you get that?
21.
21 turns. 21? 21?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, 21 turns. So now basically what it is, okay, you see that? Oh, that corrosion right there. So that's what you need to be careful about, and that's why having a torch and sometimes even another hand is going to play in your favor. So the next step is now we need to take off the bolt, take off our little clamp here, and then we'll go with pulling that boot off. So we're probably going to need...
Helps if you turn it the right way. Ready?
Yeah, just be very careful.
Touch the hot spots to make sure they're still hot.
So yes, we're going to go ahead and take this off, and I'll be right back with you. All right, now we have those off. The tie rod there's nothing left on that. So now the next step is going to be, so now that the bolt and everything is off, mind you, it's still really hot, so be very careful with that. What we've done is we put a flathead screwdriver in here and sprayed some like WD-40 type deal to kind of, you know, so where you're able to, let's see, basically to help slide it down when it's all said and done. So again, we still got to get this bracket, or this little brace right here, which, let me rub right there. Yep. Yep, you're pushing up against it. Are you able to get a hammer and kind of pound it in there if you can?
Yeah.
All right. See, he got that by pushing right underneath that. And you see how it locks in there like that? That's what he was able to break apart by getting underneath that. So.
You lying to me?
The boot, man. You gotta pull the boot off. You probably have to use a flathead and get right underneath this front lip, pop it up, and then you're gonna have to pull it out after that point.
There she goes.
There we go. Here's the boot.
Don't eat that.
Still in good shape. He said not to eat that. As you can see, all the grease in the back. What we're going to do for this is we are actually going to just use a zip tie on the back side, because these aren't going to go nowhere. And by the time you actually put your little clip on the front, the boot looks to be in good shape. It's not cracked or anything. So, yeah, that was the whole point of this. And so now we are on to using the tool. Go ahead and drop that. See, that wasn't too bad. As you can see, it's still got some, it's probably still got some life in it, but
Doing one, might as well do the other.
again, he is right. If you do one, you might as well do the other. So, like I said, the other side is not anything like that. See, it's got a little bit of, so again, we're changing these. So we're gonna go ahead and get the tool. I'll show you how to use it, and we'll get her off. So we found our piece for the Dodge Avenger, and the kit from AutoZone is 33.6. I would imagine that's probably millimeters. You're just gonna put that on a groove. What that's gonna look like on this is, this has squares to it, so that's just gonna go right on there on the car. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put this on, Make sure it's stabilized. Go ahead, Caleb, put that tube on there. The tube's gonna go over the tie rod. Let me get a better angle here. He's locking that tube into place. So go ahead and spin that neck around. Okay. Make sure it's locked on the tie rod. Slide it over, and then just, there you go. It's locked in. Now pull back on it a little bit toward you. Can you kind of spin it? It's locked, right?
Yep.
All right, it's locked. So, here we go. It's locked into place. You guys kind of tug back on it. We know we're good. You set your socket wrench in there. You got to loosen it. Pull back on it. And that should be all it is. See it coming out. Boom. I'll take her out. One tie rod.
Surprise.
Things like that happen in the shop. One tie rod down. And now it's time to put the new tie rod in. All right, now that we have the old tie rod out and the boot out, what we are going to do is we are going to put the new one in. As you guys can see, it's already been somewhat greased. We will actually grease that even more after we install this on the car. Okay, so it's going to be the same exact thing we did to take it off. We're going to go ahead and put it on. So let's go ahead and put this on. Put this on first. So because the kit we have, this is almost like perfect fitment, so we actually have to do this way, and it will come off once we're done. So go ahead and put that on there. We're going to go ahead and screw that in, get it started. See the O-ring on the inside. That's going to butt up against the power steering rack. So now
Perhaps. There we go.
don't forget to lock your sleeve in place too. That sleeve right there is actually going to hold that. It's going to hold that piece right there if you move that sleeve and twist it. And you just tighten it to where it's pretty tight. Your sleeve off, take your tool out, and voila. You have a nice, fresh inner tie rod that's not just collapsing on you. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grease this. We're going to move it a couple times, put some more grease in there so that way we can get this. We're going to get that little piece off for the tool, and that way we'll grease it, and then we'll put our boot back on. What we're going to do is we're going to grease this up. Put some more on the bottom. Push down. Get some on the top. Trying to pack as much grease in here as possible. You cannot re-grease these once the boots are on. So these already come with grease packages. You might as well use them and put them on while you got them. And why it's available to you before you put the boot on. So next step is we're going to slide that boot back on, and then we are going to get the boot on. We're going to get the boot on, and then we're going to go ahead and put our tie rod on, and then we're going to pop it in. Go ahead. Gotta get that to the back.
There's no way.
No, perfect. See, our boots back here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna zip tie it just like we did on this side. We got a zip tie around the end of it, but again, we'll get back to that here in a minute. So next step is gonna be that clamp for the boot. You'll squeeze it with your needle nose pliers, just like you did when you took it off. Make sure you get on the edge of the boot. Voila. All right, so next step, we're gonna do the nut and then the outer tie rod. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put this on now. We do have the nut already on there. We're gonna do 21 to start. We did not count, but I do know that the other side was a little bit longer, and that's probably why my alignment was pushing out. I did notice the passenger tire was sticking out further toward the road, a little further than the driver's side. So we're gonna kind of push it back in a little bit in hopes that we can bring this tire back in. So we'll go from there.
There she goes.
We have to actually hold the bottom of this in order to tighten up that bolt. So we'll go ahead and tighten this up and we'll be right back. All right, so everything is put back on. Okay. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and do a zip tie. So I'll show you what I did here. Basically, we're just wrapping this around. You get it centered up. We're gonna make sure it's nice and tight. And then you can go through and you can cut that off. One thing you do not want to forget is to tighten up down this heat shield. So you have to wrap that back around. We're at the point where now we have the tie rods all lined up. And what I had to do, okay, because my car is a lot lower than a normal person's car, is what I was doing is I was taking measurements off of here and off of here to get started, and with a tape measure. And I'm really, really close. I mean, I'm probably within a 1/16th, maybe even a little finer than that. But we've got everything straightened up as far as that goes. And this may not be the legit way to do it per se, or the most accurate way to do it, but the point is that with the steering wheel being straight and my rotors and everything being nice and tight and everything is lining up, I've got a hair pinch of toe in the front, so the tires are kind of coming in just a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the tires on and we're going to remeasure off tread, and to make sure that the tires actually look pretty good, and then we'll go ahead and set it down and readjust accordingly. Again, this is not a permanent alignment, okay guys? This is something that's going to get you really close in that ballpark, and it's going to get you enough time to get you into the shop, and so that way they can fine tune it with the alignment rack. Okay, so we're going to go get the tires on, and then I'll videotape exactly what we're doing and how we can either tune it or tweak it, and then we'll go from there. All right, so what we're doing, since my car is a lot lowered, here, go ahead and take this. We are going under the frame as close as possible. And again, this is just to try to get you by. We are at 65 on that tread right there, okay? And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna do the same in the back. And then over here, we are right at 65 3/4. Or more or less, yes, about 64 3/4. And the front was about 65. So we're about a 1/2 inch off from back to front. What happened is he's going to loosen this up, and we're going to bring the tire in, and this will come out just a hair.